Okay, so this is the I guess the outline of what you guys are going to have to do for this SAC, given that school's shut and we're doing things virtually at the moment. So over the next few weeks, you are going to be working towards completing your SAC. You can see up on the screen at the moment that there are 5 parts to this SAC. So part 1, you are going to create a diary of everything that you do. Your how long you spend in bed, how long do you spend on the PlayStation or Xbox, which you shouldn't be doing. How long do you go outside and do physical activity for? Is it 5 minutes? Are you riding your bike, or just walking the dog? I know it's going to be kind of hard given that we're all meant to be socially distancing and staying away from people, but any sort of physical activity that you do, you need to create a record of it, and you need to put it into a diary, whether it's kept on Word on your computer, or whether it's just a piece of paper that's scribbled on your desk, and that's where you record all your information. But you've got to record everything for 7 days. Part 2 will involve you evaluating that, so you'll create yourself a table of how long you spent sleeping, how long did you spend doing walking, and how long did you spend running, jogging, whatever it might be. So you're going to create a overall picture, a visual representation of your levels of physical activity, and then you're going to design a program that's going to increase those levels. Okay, so it's got to be something that's realistic. It's got to be something that you can do within the confines of your home or your area. Okay, you're still allowed to go out and exercise, so perhaps you can go out and, I don't know if you've got exercise equipment, one of those like basically what we have in the on the oval. If you've got one of those, you can go and do that sort of thing. That's still acceptable. Then part 3, yeah. So part 3, you've got to go out and you've actually got to do it. And I'm saying do it over a period of 5 weeks. So that will more than adequately, cover us for pretty much the entire term. This project should pretty much take us through all of term 2. And then in term 3, we'll pick up where we should have been now. So you've got to do 5 weeks of the program that you guys design, making sure that you keep a reflective journal of each of those sessions that you do, okay? Because that's part 4. You have to keep a journal. You have to write how you felt, what did you find difficult, what did you find easy, and then perhaps you could make slight modifications to your program, or you could even do that later on when you're evaluating it and just keeping it as it is. It's entirely up to you. Part 5 is a written thing. I'm going to have to figure out a way to do it. I mean, it's easily done. You could do it online. You could submit something via Microsoft Forms. We'll figure it out. So pretty much that is the overview of the SAC. So if we move on to the next slide, which is part 1. So it looks at a little bit more detail. So I want you to create a diary of all your activities for 7 days. Okay, physical activity, whatever it is. Okay, anything that you do that fits into the the physical activity, the healthy living pyramid, you need to record it. Okay, if you do anything sedentary, if you sit down and read a book, play Xbox, sit on the PC and do some classwork, it all counts. Okay, you need to record the intensity. Was there high, medium, low? Okay, we'll just go with high, medium, or low. You need to record how long you spent doing it for, and when it says the form or the type, what sort of category does it fit into? So if you if you need to figure out what subcategory is, it's on page 160, 161 of your textbook. You've also got the the dimensions, the activity type. Okay, so they're on page, 166. like I said before, you need to put it all into a diary. I will provide you with an example. You don't have to use it. It is, for memory, a table that you can basically record all the information in if you want to do it that way. I also don't have it with me at the moment. I'll have to make a trip into school, but I can give you an example of an A+ standard SAC, so you can have a look at that. Obviously, you're not going to copy it, but you can have a look at that and go from there, structure it however you want. So as far as how you record your activity, you know, there are different ways that we can do it. You can use your smartwatches, your fitness trackers, all that sort of stuff. That will give you a really good indication of intensity. You can put in your heart rate and that sort of stuff and work it out as a percentage of your maximum heart rate, which is 220 minus your age, if you remember that. You can just record it as a diary. If you've got a heart rate monitor but you don't have a smartwatch, use that. If you've got a pedometer, you don't have a smartwatch, use that. Okay, it's entirely up to you how you want to record it, but you need to record those intensities and how long you do it for and that sort of stuff. So that's part one. Part two is actually evaluating your current levels and then designing the program. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to use Excel to put together a graph. And I will give you some help with how you do that. If you're not familiar with Excel, it can be a little bit daunting, but you're going to create a visual representation of your activity levels. Okay, then you're going to analyze those activity levels. Then from that, you need to develop an opinion about whether you meet the National Physical Activity Guidelines or whether you're not meeting it, and why. That's the other thing you'll need to do. You'll need to include in your discussion, and again, I'll give you an example of it. You'll need to include a list of things that help you be physically active, so they're your enablers, and then you'll also need to include a list of barriers. So we know what a barrier is. They're things that stop you from being physically active. Were you injured? Were you sick? The coronavirus, the lockdown that we're facing at the moment is a perfect example of a barrier to physical activity, because all of the activities that you might normally do, your basketball, your footy, your soccer, hockey, whatever sports, rugby, they're not running at the moment. So that is a perfect example of a barrier. Then you need to design your program. Okay, it needs to be realistic. Don't go putting in stuff that you know that you're not going to do or that are impossible for you to do. Make it realistic, make it achievable. Look up SMARTer goals. So they need to be specific, measurable, achievable, real and timely, or relative and timely. Okay, so have a look at what SMARTer goals are. But you need to be able to achieve these goals that you set yourself. So say you're doing 30 minutes a day. Realistically, you guys should be doing about 60 minutes. So you would say that you want to increase, your physical activity to meet the guidelines. It's not unachievable. It is pretty realistic, but to say that you're going to go from 30 minutes, I want to achieve 2 hours of physical activity in my plan, that's probably not going to happen. Okay. So you need to keep it realistic, and you will be assessed on whether or not you do this. And I'm going to know if you're, telling porcupines about it. Let's be honest. I'm not stupid. None of your teachers are stupid. You also need to make sure that you record all that information and present it in a table and make sure that it demonstrates the FIT principles. Okay, again, I will supply that for you and you'll be able to go from there. So part 3 is the easy part. That is what I was talking about before. That's where you need to go and do it. That's, you know, that's what you organised in part 2. That's your goals that you want to set yourself, and that's you going out, say hello, Cade.
Hi.
And then get on with your work.
No.
That's you guys going and adhering to that program that you've set up. If you need help with it, if you need suggestions, hit me up on Teams, shoot me a message. Computer's always on, phone's always on. You can reach me pretty much any time, day or night. Just depends on whether I'm awake, whether I message you back or not. So part 3 is the easy one. That's just going out and doing it. Probably the hardest thing you'll find might be the motivation, but yeah, just see how you go. So part 4, the reflection. After each of your sessions, your physical activity sessions, whatever they might be, whatever you want to call them, you need to record on a template, which I will provide you with an example again. Record a journal. In the journal, you're going to include things like the activity that you did, how long did you go for, how did you feel before and after the session, were you motivated, were you not motivated, why, possibly what did you do to overcome this sort of stuff, were there any injuries, I don't know, it can be whatever you want. It's a reflective journal. It doesn't need to be massive. I'm not asking you to write a page. I think the example that I include for you for memory, I think it is about a page in length, but it's quite spaced out, and you'll see anyway. So you're going to have one of those for the end of for each of your sessions, and you're going to have quite a few of these. So if you need to print more out, I will give you a digital copy, so you can print as many as you need. If you want to do something completely different, you don't have to use the template that I provide. It's just an example. So at the end of that, you're going to complete another graph, you're going to do another analysis, and you're going to include the same information as what you included before. How long did you do it for, what intensity, all that sort of stuff. And then you're going to have a visual picture of your pre and post program, let's call it, it's not a test, but you're going to have a pre-program and you're going to have a post-program results, and then you'll be in part 5, which we'll talk about in a bit, you'll comment on, and so on and so forth. So yeah, basically,
What the hell?
Thank you, Cade, you just interrupted my video. Anywho, I've forgotten where we're up to. Yep, no, I've got nothing. Make sure that you keep the journal. You are assessed on the journal. For memory, I can't tell you, I can't bring the SAC up, but you're assessed on all of these things, on how well you do it. And some of these marks are really, really easy marks. So it is incredibly easy, if you put in the effort and the detail, to get 100%. It's a dead easy SAC, really is. On to part 5. Okay, so the last part of the SAC, part 5, is probably the hardest part. It requires you to bring it all together and think about everything that you've done over the last sort of 5, or in fact it'll be more than that, weeks. You need to make comparisons to your before, your after program results. Did you meet your goals, targets, whatever you want to call them? Did you meet them? Why didn't you? You'll need to get into the habit of including relevant information as well. You need to, like English and all those sort of subjects, if you make a statement, then you need to have the data, you need to have the facts to support what you're saying. So make sure that you use all that information that you've, taken the time to put together into graphs and that sort of thing. Make sure you use that information to support what you're saying. You'll have to identify any barriers and enablers. Again, remember, coronavirus, really, really good example. Injuries, illness, maybe lack of time. I don't know. You should have plenty of time. There will also be structured questions that need to be completed, and these are probably going to be the hardest thing for you guys to respond to. You'll need to think about what the question is asking, and then you'll need to apply it to your particular situation. Okay, there's nothing like, your textbooks aren't going to help you. So like I said, this is a SAC that can pretty much be done independently. What we'll do from time to time is I will ask you guys to maybe submit to me via Teams, or I don't know, we'll sort it out. I'm getting cramp. Submit to me where you're at, just so I can check your progress. Maybe after each of the parts are due, I'll give you deadlines, due dates, and you need to submit it by that particular day, just so I can check and I can give you feedback. I can say, yes, you're on the right track. No, you need to do this, X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be. So that's something that I will also include, but this is part 5. Okay, so this is wrapping it all up and putting the nice little neat bow on top of the project and finishing it all off. So that's pretty much the SAC in like a short-ish 15-minute, 16-minute video. Again, you know, if you have questions at any point during the SAC, you can ask me. This isn't going to be a surprise. There aren't meant to be any surprises, so shoot me an email, message me on Teams, whatever it might be. But thanks for watching.